This is my friend Greg's Total Cream Puff Garage Queen 2000 E39 M5, and this video was supposed to be a dyno battle against my 409,000 mile 2000 E39 M5. I wanted to get a real-world baseline dyno number with Greg's car and then test mine to see if it had lost any power after so many miles. But after I checked out the original StarTech cell phone in this totally mint interior, and after a rev battle, hang on, listen to mine with a cat and muffler delete. Yeah, a little more. Greg told me that in his 3 years of ownership, he never thought the car felt right. He thought it felt sluggish, but after some mechanics had replaced things like a fuel pump and tune-up items to correct the issue, and because it didn't have a check engine light on, he just accepted it as is. The car was just a cool weekend cruiser and not a track car, so he didn't think much of it. After hearing this, myself and OJ, the owner here at Fluid MotorUnion in Naperville, Illinois, thought it was a good idea to dyno his car first, and what happens next is why this is a separate video. The dyno video on my 409,000 mile M5 will be out soon, and that's kind of a part 2 to this one, but for now, here is the amazing diagnosis, repair, modification, and custom tuning that produced a gain of 139 wheel horsepower and made this the best car day in Greg's life. OJ, did that sound right to you? It sounded
so
weak,
right off the
honest.
bat, it sounded weak. The numbers that we're seeing, extremely low. Now our dyno, as I'm sure you guys know at home, reads low to begin with, but this is just way out.
What do you think?
Being that there's no check engine lights on right now, I wouldn't think that it's mechanically inside the engine. I think this is electronic. And I'm gonna, in my opinion, I'm gonna want to try something with the mass airflow sensors and see if we can get this thing to give a more normal horsepower number.
Okay. What do you think? What do you want to do with the mass airflow sensors?
We're gonna default the car into what's known as alpha N. Basically, we're gonna disconnect the mass airflow meters to try to get the car to read a background running mode. That if it gives it more power, we know that there's something wrong with.
Okay. So this is speed density mode, like on GM cars where it runs off the BMW map?
Correct.
That's the only map and whatnot?
It's kind of speed density, except this doesn't have like a sensor, more or less, to kind of tell it where it's at. It's only using engine RPM, throttle, and they know the displacement of the motor to kind of calculate its fuel position, its load. So.
And we can just simply disconnect the mass airflow sensors and just...
So there's stuff in the background that don't make it run 100% right, but when people talk about alpha N tunes, basically what you're doing is you're taking that table and you're eliminating the faults associated with it so it can run there, and then tightening everything up.
Okay.
So BMW does a great job from the factory so that car will run in case you do have a fault. But that being said, in order to keep this thing like roadworthy, you'd need to have a tune in there to compensate for that.
For everybody watching, if they had a sluggish situation on a car like this, they could just simply experiment with disconnecting the mass airflow sensors?
That's a typical way that we use to do it. If I get a complaint of pretty much any of the older BMWs with the Bosch style mass airflow meters, if I have a complaint of sluggish response, sluggish horsepower in a BMW, I'll tell them, hey, disconnect the mass airflow meter. I know the light's on, but does it feel any peppier? And if it does, then that gives us a direction.
Okay. All right, guys, so we're doing a little bit of diagnosis and potential repair here because OJ thinks that if this is the issue, that we can actually just tune the car in this alpha N mode and basically eliminate 2 really expensive mass airflow sensors. So right now we're just going to experiment with simply disconnecting them and see how she does. Wow, look at that.
You just got me 60 horsepower.
60 horsepower from disconnecting the mass airflow sensors. Unbelievable. And it sounded a lot better too.
It sounded great.
Dude, 60 horsepower by disconnecting stuff.
60 horse disconnecting the map. Now, there's some areas that, like I kind of backed out of it at the same area I did before just to make sure that everything was running. But this is basically what I want to see, is the car where it needs to be.
Okay, so it could have made more power if you laid into it a little bit more, right?
Yeah, we could have finished it off, but I want to know what's going on first before I come up with a game plan to see where we're at. So
awesome.
This definitely confirms what I just thought, is that the mass airflow meters are faulted in a way that doesn't produce a check engine light. So they've aged, maybe they're dirty, who knows exactly what's going on with them, but that being said, they're causing the car to read something in its power range it doesn't like, and therefore losing power.
Check out this dyno graph, guys.
How could you diagnose this without a dyno? Or is that...
Basically, you'd have to know firsthand the customer complaint. So someone would have to give you a complaint of, hey, the car doesn't feel quite right. So once you know that, if you've had experience in that realm, you'd know. But basically, you're going to hook up a scan tool, a logger, and watch your MAF values and kind of see where they fall into. You can scope the MAF as well. But that being said, it's going to be a little bit more. I'm sure there's videos on YouTube or whatnot where people go over setting up the MAF to get the right, where it should be, where the reading's at. But this is usually something a professional has to have experience with, where especially when you don't have a fault to follow. So because I've seen this so many times, that was my first guess, and it turned out it was right.
We gained on that one too, 275 wheel horsepower. Again, guys, this is a loaded dyno, so you're not going to get dyno jet numbers. This is a lot closer to running on a Mustang dyno.
I'm not 100% sure what that is, that dip there. This should at least kind of flatline up here. So it might be adaptations that, as you can see, 10 is as low as my dyno reads. So it could have been running lean for so long and trying to adapt it that it's throwing those values back at it now. Okay. So I'm gonna clear adaptations and see if we can get rid of that.
That's it. That was it.
Yeah, if you dip torque at all, it would pull itself back down. So that's,
Dude, we've gained 100 horsepower.
and that's where these things should be dynoing.
309. So yeah, what is the average for a stock E39 on this?
On our dyno, we see typically about a 24% drivetrain loss. So typically a good car will be about 310.
So this is literally perfect.
This is now it is. Now
okay,
it is.
awesome.
Where's the last line? Show me how you smoothed it out. The pink one?
So this pink one here,
wow.
309. This is where you came in at, this green one.
Yeah.
If you look here, your air fuels here, look how lean this was. I mean, this is almost in the 18s. That's dangerous. That's engine issues. But that kind of explains what's going on, why I disconnected the MAF. So the MAF was running super lean. The car's trying to compensate for it, adding fuel, adding fuel, adding fuel. Can't quite get to where it wants to be at, which, according to this pink one, is 12s, 13. This is where it wants to run. So it's adding all that fuel. So when I disconnected the MAFs, it pegs down here below 10 because the adaptations weren't cleared yet. So once I cleared the adaptations, we got rid of that dip, and now it's up here. There's still a little something here, but that just could be a little remnants left over from air sensors and whatnot.
Hey, can we put a tune in this thing?
We can.
I mean, I'm saying this like as if it's my car. Greg, do you want a tune on your car?
I'm not going back to work
OJ, would
today.
you like to give him a tune on his car?
I think what we should end up doing, it because we could save him the money of having to go replace the mass air meters, is we should just do an alpha end tune on the car, and then we can basically it'll be a comparison of the difference between that overstock,
wow,
with no lights.
Awesome.
I'm getting a speeding ticket today.
This is awesome.
It's going to be great.
Fixed car check, tuned car check.
We're probably going to be adding 120 horsepower when everything's said and done.
And you've been driving like this for like 3 years, never really know.
I never owned the car when it was new, so this is what I just assumed. It's like watching your kids grow. You can't see it, See, all right,
dude, you're gonna leave here with like 120 more wheel horsepower.
I'm going driving.
All right, make your guesses. Greg, pay attention, man. Come on, your car just gained a big amount of horsepower. What do you think?
That sounded 20 horsepower better.
Almost 30. Or wait a minute, maybe my math's off. 334, I can't think right now, but that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Just from a tune.
Yeah, I still have a little bit of adjusting to do.
Okay.
This gray line, now he's got some tweaking to, like, new things like fuel pumps. Like there's a lot going on, especially even with the mileage and the age of the car. So I'm gonna have to make an adjustment or two just to make sure this is that. But we're running a little leaner than I'd like to run, so I'm gonna dip that down a touch just to get it more, which means we might find a little bit more power doing that. But as you can see, we pretty much picked up across the board, especially at this top end. But we're gonna make some adjustments to try to smooth this out and bring this airflow down. Should take 1 or 2 files.
Right now. Are you kidding? 346 wheel horsepower. I mean, this is gonna feel equivalent to as if you strapped a blower on this car, from what you were used to, of course. Yeah. Obviously, there was something wrong with the car.
This is going from a 540 to an M5.
Yeah, seriously. 207. That's what he's been driving around with for 3 years. This is why you need to beat on your car, people. I mean, this had to have felt really bad.
You need an OJ.
You need an OJ. 346 wheel horsepower. OJ, do we have the torque, by the way?
Yes. I'm just, because I'm tuning, I've got the air fuels up there, but I'll throw that up. Give me 2 seconds.
Tonight, I'm going to go home and my family is going to write a song about you. And then we will sing it today. It'll be known as M5 Day.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Greg, is this the best day of your life?
You know what? Today, honest to God, if you look at my calendar in my house, today is Porsche Day.
Oh.
Today is the day I got my Cayman.
Wow.
And now it's BMW Day too.
Yeah, it is definitely BMW Day now.
So, as you probably know, Alex, calculation of horsepower and torque is based off of 52 RPM. So any dyno graph worth its grain of salt has to meet more or less there. So as you can see, these all meet here. Torque's looking right about somewhere similar, 320-ish in the area.
Okay.
Up here, so I can get an exact number, but it's more or less 323 probably.
OJ wants to run this again because he thinks he can squeeze even more power out of this M5. And guys, I just have to remind you, this is not a dyno jet dyno. On a dyno jet, this car would probably make like 400 wheel. That is crazy. I mean, it's dead consistent. 342, 344, 346, 342. This is nuts. And another 342, it looks like. This is awesome. I think we're good, OJ. I think we're good. This is like the most consistent car ever.
Awesome, yeah, that's where I wanted to see it. And that's also where I wanted to see it was the air fuels dipped down just a touch.
Yeah.
So that way we moved them into a safer area where it's not actually going to make any more power, but it just gives it a little margin of safety for, you always want to get on the rich end where you're making power.
So now, is the whole map rewritten? Like, how would this affect fuel economy, just normal cruising?
So typically it has a negative effect on fuel economy after people get it, and this is mostly because you do add a little bit of fuel in the upper rev range, but people can't stay out of it. If you're actually to stay out of it, you'd notice that the added timing and the efficiency clearing up in the middle ranges actually tend to give better fuel economy.
Oh, nice.
The problem is you got to stay out of it.
Right.
You know, and usually people, when you're adding 100 and, you know, almost 130, 140 horsepower to your car, it's going to be hard to stay out of it.
Yeah.
It's like a new car, so.
You're going to drive very easy, right?
No.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of how OJ from Fluid Motor Union diagnosed, repaired, modified, and tuned a mint E39 M5 for a 139 wheel horsepower gain. And what's awesome is Greg doesn't need to buy the expensive mass airflow sensors since they've been deleted in the tune, so the cost of the tune was supplemented by that fact. If you guys want OJ and the team to fix or modify your car, check out all their information in the description box below. They're about 40 minutes from Chicago, and they're offering my viewers 10% off. So when you call, mention LegitStreetCars, they'll take 10% off any service for the next 30 days. I hope you guys love this video as much as me, and stay tuned for part 2 where we dyno my car and compare its power output to Greg's car. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe, and have an awesome day.